Today we're going to visit the Vampire Chronicles and take a look at Akasha's return to power in the Queen of the Damned. This is a central event in the book, something none of the other vampires ever seen coming, and is a crucial step in concluding, basically, the first installment of the series before the characters all take new directions. For this video, we're going to analyse why Akasha returned to power, the reasons behind it, what it meant for the fate of the world, and the impact it had on the vampire community. In order for us to properly examine why she returned to power, we first have to look at why she entered into existence as a living, statue-like being with no motivation whatsoever to hunt, drink, to move, to even exist. She and Enkill became nothing more than inanimate translucent objects, so let's find out exactly why that happened. Akasha and Enkill were the first vampires to ever exist. Their story is well known throughout the Vampire Chronicles universe and amongst the many fans out there too. I've made individual videos on them both that you can view at the end of this video, so I'm not going to explain their entire origins and beginnings in this video. Instead, I'm going to look at how they transitioned from human god-like figures who drank the land dry, all the way to the statuesque marble-like figures they become, drifting through time. After they became vampires, Akasha and Enkill struggled to deal with the overwhelming influence of bloodlust. Being the first two, the only two vampires in existence at that time, meant that they contained the sole essence of the sacred core. This meant that there wasn't a moment where they weren't consumed by the desire to drink blood. Only through creating more vampires did the lust subside, and that was just slightly. Despite all this, they ruled their kingdom as gods, displaying their super strength, super speed, the ability to fly, Akasha's ability to incinerate anyone she wished. Akasha was also considered the mother of all vampires. Over time, their subjects and followers discovered that drinking vampire blood allowed them to transform into vampires themselves, and soon, the spread of vampirism was everywhere. After centuries of witnessing the cycle of nature, the cycle of human history, the conflicts, the wars, and the constant need for blood, Akasha and Enkill developed an exhaustion of immortality. They eventually lost the will to drink, will to rule, and lost the will to continue existing as rulers of their land. They had seen it all, experienced it all, and no longer felt any of the emotions that come with being a vampire or even a human. They no longer laughed, no longer feared, and no longer had any will or desire. They became figures of dormancy, still conscious, yes, but no longer active. They withdrew themselves from the world and slowly turned into marble-esque living statues, drifting through the sands of time. There's not a clear timeline of when this happened, but so much time had passed that the nature of their actual existence turned to myth and legend. Stories were told of their origins, tales were passed down through the centuries. They sat still, refusing to move. However, for those who did know of their existence to be real, knew that Akasha's lifeline was tied to all vampires in existence. Should she die, then all vampires would perish with her. Her safety became a priority. Both her and Enkill eventually came under the protection of Marius the Romanus, who referred to them as those who must be kept, signalling how essential their role was in the survival of the vampire species. For 2,000 years, Marius cared for and protected them. However, not once, no matter how much he tried, could he convince either of them to return to active existence. They had nothing to live for, and would sit as eternal shells. I've previously mentioned that nothing surprised Akasha, nothing shocked her, nothing ever made her truly think about the possibility of returning to the living world. She was the Great Mother, the creator, the source of every vampire's lifespan. Vampires remained hidden in the shadows, unwilling to risk their existence being exposed to humans. It was a dangerous status quo, yes, but one that had worked for thousands of years. Not since Akasha's time did vampires rule as gods and reveal themselves openly to those who worshipped them. Marius was desperate for his queen to return. He tried everything and anything. She rose once or twice when the situation called for it, like allowing Marius to drink from her, but always returned to her throne and returned to silence. That was, however, until she heard Lestat's music in the 1980s. Heavy metal rock music with a message. Music that carried with it not just the emotional and psychological weight of his experiences, but also a supernatural resonance. Vampires in Rice's universe are highly sensitive to emotional and psychic energies, and Lestat's music, imbued with his own powerful persona and his vampiric essence, had a profound effect on those who listened to it, including Akasha. For her, Lestat's music is not just a sound, it's a call to action. His defiance, his willingness to expose vampire secrets to the human world, and his unique perspective on immortality challenged her. It intrigued her, and ultimately inspired her to awaken and enact her vision for the world. Lestat's music, in essence, represents a changing world, one that Akasha decides she must shape according to her own vision. After thousands of years in a catatonic state, Akasha has been weakened. She knows the only blood that will truly revitalize her is the blood she gave to her husband Enkil. She rises from her throne and kills him, draining him entirely. Marius is shocked, furious and heartbroken that she would not rise for him over the course of 2,000 years, no matter what he said or tried, but woke for someone as young, in vampire terms, as Lestat. Akasha's utopian vision is based on a critical view of human history, which she sees as being plagued by violence, oppression and chaos, much of which she attributes to male dominance in a societal structure. With her ancient perspective, she has witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations, wars and the perpetuation of violence, which she believes can be traced back to aggressive male leadership and patriarchal systems. Akasha proposes a radical solution to what she perceives as the root cause of the world's ills, the extermination of the majority of the male population. She believes that by drastically reducing the number of males, she can eliminate the primary source of violence and aggression, thereby paving the way for a more peaceful, matriarchal society. In this new world, women, who Akasha views as inherently more peaceful and nurturing, will hold the majority of power and leadership roles, leading humanity into a new era of harmony and stability. Ironically, Akasha's vision for a peaceful world is predicated on an act of immense violence. She rationalizes this initial violence as a necessary evil, a means to an end that would ultimately save humanity from itself. This contradiction is one of the central tensions in The Queen of the Damned, as it forces both characters to confront difficult questions about the nature of power, the ethics of the greater good, and whether peace can be truly achieved through violent means. Akasha's return to power and vision for a new world in The Queen of the Damned serves as a thought-provoking exploration of utopian ideals, the complexities of human society, and the paradoxes inherent in seeking peace through violence. It highlights Anne Rice's ability to weave deep philosophical questions into her narratives, challenging readers to ponder the nature of power itself, ponder the nature of morality, and also the potential for societal transformation. Akasha's plan, while deeply flawed, catalyzes the events of the novel and forces characters to confront their own beliefs, allegiances, and the lengths they are willing to go to protect the future of humanity and vampire kind alike.